What's going on, guys? Raj here. I hope all of you are doing well. Today I'll be talking about HERMES. I'll be focusing on 3 fragrances within the Terre d'Hermes line and kind of doing like a compare and contrast video. Just before I get into that, I'm hoping you don't get any background noise from a fan that I've got going on. It's so hot. I think I wouldn't be able to do this video without it on. We're going through a bit of a heat wave here in the UK, so some pretty high temperatures by our standards. So hopefully you don't pick up too much background noise. I'll see when I actually publish the video. So I'll be talking about 3 fragrances from the Terre d'Hermes line. I actually decided to pick up a few samples and they were sent to me in a very nice, I wasn't expecting this, but a very nice Hermes box. Hermes are actually really well known for presentation. And the 3 fragrances I got multiple samples, so it was like a job lot. Wouldn't be surprised if the person I bought them from actually works for Hermes and making a few quid on the side. Fair enough. So the 3 fragrances I got were the original, the EdT. So as I said, I had multiple of these samples. So that's that one. Got the Pure Parfum, which I used to own actually, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. And the latest flanker, Eau de Givree, and as you can see inside, I quite like getting the samples before buying bottles. Quite often it makes it a lot easier when making decisions. So, you know, a few things just before getting into the specifics of each scent. Terre d'Hermes is, I think by now, has to be considered a classic, to be honest. It came out in 2006. And you know, it's maybe nowadays doesn't get mentioned as much as it used to on YouTube with so many new scents coming on the market, but it's always it always crops up now and again. It's always, I think, loved by a lot of people. I think on Base Notes they did this, I don't know when they did it, but top 100 scents, and I think this one came out number 1 in the men's category. 2006, so definitely been around for a long time now. Jean-Claude Ellena was the perfumer. He also did the Parfum version. So actually, yeah, let's just get straight into it. No point wasting any more time. The EdT. Now, I've never owned this one actually. Never owned it. Had a few samples maybe in the past. Tried it several times at the Hermes counter. But I'm kind of looking back on that decision not to own it as quite a bad one, because I really enjoyed my samples, and almost like out of respect, you kind of should own it. It's one of those fragrances that is kind of up there in that top tier men's mainstream fragrances. I did own the Parfum though. I have owned the Parfum in the past, so I have experience with that, and I've reviewed a few of the other flankers. And by the way, I have a Hermes playlist, so if you want to look back on previous videos I've done on this house, fragrances from this house, check it out. I'll leave the link down below. The EdT. So I'm gonna, you know, like, it's hard to review Terre d'Hermes without saying the same thing that everybody says. And I'm not sure I'm really gonna add anything new to the conversation, but I think it's worth still doing a video. So let's just quickly run through the notes. Top notes: orange and grapefruit, pretty much at the heart. Well, at the top. Well, technically at the top, but you know what I mean by at the heart of this line. Very sort of prominent notes in all of the flankers, pretty much. Then going into the middle notes, you've got pepper, pelargonium, which is geranium, and this flint note, so kind of stone-like, mineral-like, earthy. Base notes of vetiver, cedar, patchouli, and benzoin. And the EdT, because as I said, I used to own the Parfum, and I didn't really realize actually how much depth the EdT had until I have been recently, over the past few weeks, properly wearing it. It is definitely one of those that it actually develops quite a lot. Like, there's a lot of noticeable development, and it really kept me really interested in keeping going back for more. I think there's a great structure here where the scent holds its kind of structure and it doesn't fall to bits. It just keeps going really, really nicely. It's a really classy scent actually, I find, as well, and just, you know, kept me interested. This orange note, which you'll find in the entire line, I would say, in the EdT and the Parfum, I would not describe this as like juicy, sweet, sugary orange. It's maybe not even the most authentic orange to my nose anyway, but that doesn't really matter. It comes across as, in the EdT, slightly sweetened, but not as much as the Parfum. I felt in the Parfum this orange sweetness was bordering on like juice drink, like added sweetness, added sugars into an orange-based drink. In the EdT, it's kind of there, but it's surrounded by a lot more earthier. I would say there's a little bit of rose in there. Now, geranium is mentioned in the note breakdown. Sometimes, you know, it can remind you of rose. Very woody, quite spicy as well, but not in a kind of way that assaults your nostrils. It's really one of those that just gently comes through, and it creates this kind of almost chocolatey patchouli kind of effect, mixed with the earth, mixed in with the sweetness of the orange, is just really lovely. Actually, kind of reminded me at times to Xerjoff Richwood. They are very, very different fragrances, but I would say they kind of cross paths at one point, but they're very different scents. But it came to mind, so I thought, you know, worth mentioning. I had got a little bit on my hand here just to bring back some of the memories. I don't find this a particularly loud fragrance, to be honest, although I have smelled this on other people. And it leaves a nice scent trail. It's quite a nice, subtle, gentle scent trail, but nothing that I found quite explosive on the skin, which I actually quite liked. It's got almost kind of like a pencil shaving feel in there, dusty and very kind of like, you know, like you run your hands through like hot stones and hot soil, mixed in with a little bit of juicy citrus and a sweet but kind of earthy rosy note, geranium maybe, picking up and just lifting this fragrance up without it becoming too base heavy. It's got a wonderful balance between light and dark, fresh and, you know, not so fresh, I don't know. But yeah, just really lovely. I think I'll have to get a bottle of this. It's smooth, it's really, really smooth, which I like. There's no sharp edges, the spices don't come out, the orange doesn't just sort of like come out and take over. The base notes are not overly woody. It's just so like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, really masterfully blended by Jean-Claude Ellena. Probably technically quite a really good fragrance, actually. Excellent, excellent stuff. Let's move on to the Parfum. Okay, the Parfum, as you can see here, you know, just wanted to focus on some of the imagery that Terre HERMES, you'll see like in adverts, there's, not on this, but in the like video advert, there's a man out there, he's shirtless, he's in like the desert or somewhere, and I think in one of them he like throws up the orange sand into the air, and it's kind of like that image of that sort of that lone wolf, that lone man standing out there in the heat of the desert. Something that you'll see in actually in Fahrenheit commercials, the older Fahrenheit commercials, and some of the colours here are quite similar. So I quite like that. I like the adverts and the pictures. The Parfum, again, now reminding myself of this one because I used to own this one. You know, I do like it. I do like it. I think maybe I used to like it a lot more when I had the bottle. I'm not actually sure. Going back to it now, it feels a little bit, it's definitely, for me, not as complex as the EdT. This orange note is a lot sweeter. It's very like sugary orange, I would say. But actually I really enjoy that. And actually it comes through a lot more, but it kind of dominates the fragrance, to be honest. I didn't feel there was as much development on my skin as the EdT. With parfums, you have a higher concentration of fragrance oils and like less other ingredients like alcohol and water and stuff. So you don't get as much projection on the skin, but you're supposed to get much more longevity. I didn't really get great longevity with this one, to be honest. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit disappointing in terms of the performance and the scent. It felt a little bit thin, actually, to me at times. The base notes almost don't kind of come out on my skin. There's a gentle rose-like sweetness, but it never seemed to develop too far away from this slightly earthy, sweet orange and that was it, and it kind of faded on the skin. I found myself having to reapply. Sometimes your nose can get used to scent, so you know, it could be that. But going back to the fragrance, I was a little bit actually underwhelmed this time. I still think it smells good, like it's a really good smelling scent, just a little bit thin. And I don't know if any of you guys watching this video have the same experience, or whether you maybe prefer this version over the EdT. But I think now, having sort of, you know, essentially compared them side by side, the EdT has a lot more going on. It keeps me a lot more interested. There's almost nothing really much more I can say on the Parfum. So there you go. Alright, so let's move on to the latest flanker. This one is Eau de Givree now. This is created by Christine Nagel, the in-house perfumer. It came out this year, 2022. Or maybe it came out towards the end of last year actually. Maybe it did, but I started seeing it in the shops this year. Top notes of citron, middle notes of juniper berry and timur. It's like a type of pepper. And then base notes, woody and mineral notes. Okay, so very generic there. Eau de Givree, I went through my samples really quickly because it's not a long-lasting fragrance. The opening is lovely. It's really, really nice. Very much now going into a much more juicier, sweeter, kind of grapefruity, kind of citrus accord there. Well done, really, really well done. To be honest, once you smelled this kind of accord, you would have smelled it in a lot of other fragrances. Probably a lot of other fragrances like, you know, something from Atelier Cologne, I would say do it better, but this is still really good. You've got that kind of vegetal, almost like perfumed fruit accord that you find in a lot of the Jardin Méditerranée line, that garden line. And it feels like a incomplete version of one of those fragrances. I'm getting also some vibes in terms of the way that this fragrance is kind of made and how it performs on my skin to H24, another fragrance from Christine Nagel, in the sense that it hits you with something quite nice, really nice in the opening, and then just kind of fades away into some clean white musks. Doesn't really have an impact on me. The thing is with these types of scents, when you have very simple ingredients and a simple note breakdown, they really have to have an impact on me anyway to keep me interested. And because there's so much space between all the notes, each one has to be fantastic. And apart from these top notes, I don't really know what else is going on in here. There isn't a great deal to talk about, to be honest. It felt like it needed a lot more, or those notes that are there needed to be a lot more impactful, and it just did not have that. Clean white musks give this a kind of freshly laundered, you know, it smells like a wonderful candle, if I'm honest with you, that you would burn in the springtime, first thing in the morning. This is not really a scent that I really enjoyed in the sense of it as a total, but in the opening, it was lovely. That opening 1 or 2 hours, really fantastic. But a bit of a letdown, and performance was like 4 or 5 hours. You absolutely will need to respray this one, which to me, I don't really want to respray, if I'm honest with you, if it's not really like doing much for me. If I'm loving it and it lasts a short amount of time, I'll respray, no problem. But with this one, I kind of sprayed it on and then kind of forgot about it, to be honest. It was one of those. So I would really love to hear from you guys and what your experiences are with this line. A lot of people were disappointed that, I think it was Eau Très Fresh, had to be discontinued, and this kind of essentially is a replacement. What about the EdT versus the Parfum? Which one do you prefer? Is the EdT like the king, the classic, and the all-time winner? I'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are. And as I said, I have an HERMES playlist where you can check out previous videos on the brand. There's a bunch of new videos that I've been putting out recently. So thank you to everyone who's watched those, and also to some new subscribers as well. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.